I really would fancy some singing lessons to really like belch it, you know?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you what, singing, I did not appreciate it when I was taking lessons, but now that I know what I know about the voice and the felt sense experience about humming and your vagus nerve, like if you just took a breath in, let's do it together.
Yeah.
And then hum on your exhale. Like, don't you want to just stay there for a minute?
Wow. I mean, I really do. And what is that?
So the humming, activating the throat chakra, right? It's connected to your vagus nerve. So your vagus nerve is right here. So when you're humming, you're vibrating that part of your body, and it brings you completely inside. So it's bringing you out of the mind and right into your body. And there's almost a sensation of it like dropping down. I'm sure you kind of felt that. Like as you're humming and the exhale's going down, so is the sound, right? So that's really good if you're having, you know, busy thoughts and your mind is racing. But with the voice, right, the vocal cords, getting that activated every time you sing and express, it's completely tapping you into a full embodied experience. So when I did lessons, I always felt better, but I didn't really understand why. I was like 15, 16. And now I just sing for my inner child.
I just sing for my inner child.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And you have a beautiful voice.
Thank you.
You know what I noticed the hardest part for me was that calm at the end of the breath. I didn't know how. I know that now I put words to it like surrender, right? Or noticing the energy around me if somebody is making me exhale or inhale and knowing the difference between that type of energy and connection and really what that means in terms of my nervous system, you know? But I didn't know, and I still have to work really hard on how to come into that exhale, like that real surrender. And the first time I ever felt that truly was at the end of that session that I did with you at my house where, and I think you noticed it when it was my body was leaning forward.
Totally.
And it was like there was that extra vertebrae in my like middle to lower back that at some point gave. And it was like
The crumble.
the crumble. Wow, the crumble.
Yeah. I think I even said that to you, right? It's like, could you just let yourself crumble?
Ooh, you did say that.
Like us as women, I crumble all the time. But how often do we get the chance, especially as a single mom and, you know, maybe you're running a business or whatever it is, but how often do we get the chance to crumble? Because by nature, we're nurturers and we're always wanting to make sure everybody else is good and taken care of. And it can be so challenging to find that time for ourselves to really crumble and get a felt sense experience of what that is, right? Not just think it. And that position, folding all the way over, when we put our body in a position that it knows it's safe to let go. Like think about it when we're in fetal. That's usually where we go when we need to cry or something's happening. So the crumble of folding over is kind of like a fetal position, and the body's like, oh, okay, it's safe to let go here.
Yeah, and I know the one of my best, like, you know, not mantras, but like go-to, like things that I remember, directions is like, when's the earliest you felt like you couldn't do or had to do or whatever to get to that core, like that root of the pain or that root of the learned behavior. Right. And so I was thinking that night, when was the earliest I felt like I couldn't crumble?
Oof. Because
if that's the first time I felt a real surrender, and I was 41.
Wow.
When did I
ask you?
Yeah.
What did that feel like in your body in that moment? Like, Not necessarily logically, but like, how did that feel?
I felt like I didn't want to ever move. Like I didn't want to get out of that position again. I didn't ever want to get uncrumbled again because I am tired of being strong. I am tired of having to be fierce. I am tired of searching for my power. Oh. Like my power needs to be my surrender and my crumble and my just not having to perform anymore.
Ooh, that gave me chills.
And that's where I say to everyone that I talk to about you that 2 hours with LinZee is like 2 years in therapy, because you can talk about the pain, but until you can integrate the feeling of the release of the pain, it's worthless. It's like philosophy without integration is just an idea. Totally. And until you have a way and a practice, truly a practice, a daily practice of integrating these modalities and these things, like you can go to all the breathwork ceremonies, all the shamanic breathwork ceremonies, all of the retreats, all of the yogas, all of the whatevers, you have it. If you don't have a way that you're integrating that every single day. And to me, that crumble gave me a place and a space to, like, if I have 10 minutes to meditate, I really intentionally like seek into that breath, like that last breath that made me fold. How do I, if I have 3 minutes, if I have 10 minutes, if I have 30 minutes, if I have an hour, if I have 4 hours, if I'm going to bed, that's the breath I'm searching for.
Yeah,
like,
it almost like gave you an imprint.
Yes.
Right. So like now that new memory is stored. Thank you for sharing that. I relate heavily to that. And that's why, you know, I was brought to this work too, is the exhaustion of searching outside of ourselves to be something. And that's exactly what I learned, that it is in the softness that is the most powerful woman, and dangerous. Do you know why? Because she's nurturing and she's soft and she's open and it's authentic, but she'll also fuck you up if you cross her boundaries.
Amen.
Because she's integrated both parts of herself, right? So like the softness is open because she's not protecting anymore. And this is what I did. I was always in protection mode, so I couldn't access that part of myself. And also the crumble, what it offers, I love that you spoke to this, is instead of logically talking about I am sad, right? Or owning I have anxiety. You might hear people say my anxiety. It's actually just an experience in the body. And so the body is actually not owning that, but our mind is. So it's kind of keeping it active. So you're right. Oftentimes what I find is on my own journey or even with clients, they're almost doing these practices to spiritual bypass, right? But they're actually not ever experiencing the emotion through the body so it can fully move through and you can reach the bottom, right? And it's less about releasing anything, and it's more about letting love in.
Wow.
Letting love in and being witnessed, right? With safe connection, because it's less about healing, and it's like healing is the byproduct of safe connection.
Wow, say that again.
Healing is the byproduct of safe connection.
Wow.
Letting the love
that
in.
hits. I remember when I first started my journey, really intentionally healing, but really it was just trying to find myself after going through chemo and the divorce and the move and all the shifts in my family and friend circles. And I was just really like lost and scared, but also crazy free, right? Like I was like, okay, like all of my obligations are gone. Oof. Nobody's expectations for me are on me anymore because nobody expects anything of me anymore because I just burned it all down.
We got to do that. I've done that millions of times.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. But it's also scary as hell.
Totally.
But the meditation that really brought me through those first stages of that was that heart chakra, was that that I imagined myself sitting inside of a rose. And just every time I breathed, the rose petals added more and more rose petals. And I was just sitting in this rose, and I could smell the rose, and I could feel it, and it was soft. And it was this really beautiful sensation, but it was always the breath through my heart. And I would even imagine like rain, like this rose would grow because I would let the rain in, and it's this bright white light that was raining into my heart. And as it did, it would like spread through the rest of my body. And that truly, I mean, some of these meditations literally took my breath away, where I felt like I couldn't exhale. And then times that I exhaled, but I felt like I couldn't inhale again. And it was like I could feel something was happening in my body. But again, I was so brand new to all of this. I thought I was maybe a little bit nuts. Like I had lost it. I had gone to like 2 shamanic breathwork ceremonies, and I had no idea really what I was doing, but I knew it felt so good.
That part.
And it was like, wow. And the more I connected to the heart, and then the more I learned about blockages in your body and how breast cancer is really the manifestation of a blocked heart chakra and under nurtured and being over nurturing and the self-sacrificing and people pleasing that I had just thought was a part of my personality. But no, it was a part of my learned behavior. People pleasing doesn't need to be a personality trait. It doesn't have to be a life sentence. We can actually, we're allowed to please ourselves and to like really sit in our own bodies and be soft. And you know, I've said now in my singledom, it's like I will not date anybody who's attracted to my strength or my independence. Yeah. Like I am this way as a byproduct of what I've needed to be. But if you're not fully intentional about wanting to come into my space to relieve some of this responsibility and make my life easier and happier and better, right? Then like I'm not interested. And I guess that stands for friendships and romantic relationships. Totally. It's now a different level of what you said about connection. It's that exhale energy. And if it's not an exhale energy, I am out.
Yeah.
Like obligated to nothing, you know?
Totally. It's funny. Do you know I have the rose tattooed right here?
No.
Okay. It's on my chest. The rose comes from like Mother Mary, right? And it is the highest frequency flower to humans, and it represents the heart. You probably, did you know that when you
No,
okay.
And the rose has been a constant denominator in my world since my divorce, actually. I started buying myself flowers.
Isn't that the best?
Honestly?
Ladies, you must go to Trader Joe's, get yourself some flowers.
For real. It was the biggest game changer. And honestly, I even change up the types of flowers. You know, but roses were it for a year.
Totally.
And sometimes different colors, but usually it was white roses for a year. And just the way that they smell, and it was like, I didn't even know I liked flowers. I didn't, I mean, I spent 13 years in a marriage where I said, don't bother. Yeah. And then when I had them in my living room once, I was like, wow. I have a funny story about that. I was downtown in Old Town, and I was with a girlfriend and headed into the Uber, just beelining my way to the car when Old Town started getting really extra Old Towny. And I'm going out, and this guy comes up and hits on me, and I was like, no, like, thank you, but I'm going home. And he literally, you know, the lady that sells roses in the streets, he literally goes to her and he says, how much for all of them? I don't know. He spent like $400 or $500.
He better have.
He bought all of them, like 6 or 7 dozen roses off of the lady. And they were multiple colors. They were so beautiful. And literally, like, as I was getting in the car, Like,
oh my gosh.
No extra plot twist. He wanted no, he wasn't trying to creep in there. He was just like, you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. You are the most beautiful woman that is here right now. Like, you need this. And like literally sent me into the car with all of these roses. So I get them home just smiling ear to ear, 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, not long after I just started splitting custody with my ex-husband. So it was just a whole different world. And I had this bouquet of all these roses in my house. And every time I walked downstairs in the morning or walked past them, I was like, yes, yes, yes.
Okay, that's abundance.
Abundance.
And you were open to receiving it because you opened your heart, right? Like as women, we're natural born receivers. Natural receivers. Like our egg does not come out of our ovaries and go, meh. It doesn't chase, right? Like we are receivers. We are the golden ticket. And so that means like what I'm hearing from your story is your open heart just created not only abundance for you to receive from a male, a masculine, but the woman who was selling the roses, imagining what that abundance did for her whole day. Totally. Where she's like, I can go home and feed my kids and, whatever.
Be done
it was
for the night. Her. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're right. You're right all around. It was literally the gift that kept on giving. And I bought myself flowers every couple of weeks after that.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, I never want these things to go away. Yeah. I want this as a permanent fixture in my home. And even now, fast forward a couple of years of this flower buying situation. This last week, I was at the store and the roses there wasn't that many of them. It was just kind of a lower stock moment. And I went around, I was like, oh, this one's really cool. And this one's really cool. And this one's cool. And I just I brought them random, like 8 of them, different flowers. And when I put them in the flower in the table, it was so beautiful, like wildflowers, so spring-like. And all day long, there were all these different signs and synchronicities that were all about spring. And I'm like, how random that for the first time ever, I didn't buy roses, or sometimes lilies is like my constant backup, but they were neither. It was wildflowers. And spring had sprung in my home, and it was a whole different energy. And it was really beautiful. Even my fig trees just started getting little sprouts, kind of reminding you that in the winter, it looks so dormant. The tree looks dead in the winter. And now to see like the fresh foliage coming in, little baby figs starting to grow in, it was such a metaphor that, I have been in this sort of isolated, not even isolated, like a hermit in this stage of life for a couple of years. And I'm feeling really called right now, which is the reason why we're doing this now, like shining a light on these conversations, talking about who and how have I survived the last 2 years? Who did I connect with that really brought me back to life in a whole new way? What are the different modalities and the things that I've learned in order to heal and grow and evolve in a way that doesn't put me back to where I was, 3 years ago when I was diagnosed with cancer, but allows me to really redefine who I am now as a 41-year-old woman. And truly, it feels like this is it. Spring has sprung and the world is waking up. And so many people are in that precipice of burning it down. And what happens on the other side of the burn? And it's like, this is what happens on the other side of the burn.
Totally.
Spring eventually springs. Sprung. And when it does, it's magical. And so
it really is.
Thank you for coming and just being here with me today and being my first person on this couch. For real. It's so special. It's so special. You are a purely magical person. I remember meeting you at Poppy's birthday party. And I was like, first of all, it was also my first time ever learning about Shibari. Oh, right. That was where we met, right? Wasn't it that was at that event? Gosh, that feels like yesterday and also forever ago.
Yeah.
And you are just such a bright light in every way. You know, I always say you can feel your essence when you walk into a room. And, you know, I had been in real hibernation. I was still very much in hibernation at that stage. And I showed up to this shibari, which for those of you who don't know, shibari is that ropes where you get tied up and all the magical stuff that I knew nothing about.
It's actually a very beautiful, magical experience of surrender. Like it's all about that. Yeah.
It sure is. It's it was such an eye-opening night for me, but it's also where I realized how disconnected from my femininity I was and from my sexual expression. And I showed up, I felt like a grandma because I was like in my my silk pajamas that were like my sexiest pajamas, but they go down to like my kneecaps. And we're tying ourselves up. I'm like, damn, I should have worn my corset. Like there was a time that I used to be super fun. What happened? But it wasn't about performing either, which was also beautiful. It was just as women. It was so beautiful. And we watched the whole shibari, like, was it presentation? Like,
yeah. It was like an erotic presentation, like a full experience that we got to
beautiful.
Watch. Yeah.
And to what you said about their surrender, it was like that. I saw that look and I'm like, oh, what it would be like to surrender like that.
And that's the same thing in the crumble.
Yeah. Full circle.
Yes. That surrender of the, right. Which is so fascinating. Tools are permission slips. Whether it's shibari or ayahuasca in the jungle in Peru or somatic breathwork or family constellations, whatever it is, or connecting with your friend for 10 minutes, that permission slip, like each tool comes in your life for a specific reason. And when you find it, it's really the connection piece that leads you to that tool. And then you find that exhale and that surrender, and it's actually the same. But one tool might work better for someone else and vice versa. So the tools are miracles. I've done so many of them, and they change over time too, you know, but shibari definitely.
And tools is such a great way to explain it, because it's like having different tools in the toolbox too, that you might learn something now that maybe you don't integrate for months.
That's it.
But once you, like months later, you think of it and you're like, oh, actually right now this would be perfect. Yeah. Even taking the shibari. I mean, I didn't touch that shibari. We all went home with the shibari after that event, and I went home with mine and I put it in the nightstand on the opposite side of the bed for, you know, when I have guests maybe at some point. And it just laid there to rest for a while. And I pulled it out for a photo shoot that I was doing with my dear friend Mitzi. You met Mitzi at my retreat back a few months ago.
She's brilliant.
Amazing. So her photography is all about as I am, and it's owning and putting a light and shining a light on where you feel shame. We were doing a photo shoot and she goes, what do you want to shine a light on? And I said, my scars, my wrinkles, and my extra skin, because I am 41 and I am single and I'm not perfect, but my body is like fiercer than it ever has been. It's so strong, and I was so I am so proud of my body. But instead the questions that we often get about our bodies is, how do we get rid of the scars? How do we hide the wrinkles? Totally. How do we cover up all these things? And I'm not, you know, against whatever anybody wants to do, but it's not about shame. And I wanted to shine a light on what my body is now. So I brought shibari. I had no idea what I was going to wear in the shoot. And I said, maybe I'm just going to be naked. And I go to the shoot and I tie myself up in the shibari as tight as I could. And I pull it like for real. And then I just busted out of it. So there were two moments in that photo shoot that really captured sort of the contraction and the expansion. And you can see the facial expressions even in it that I didn't anticipate. I mean, when I brought the shibari, I was imagining like a cute way that I was going to decorate myself in the rope. But when I got there, you know, Mitzi has a beautiful way of mirroring this powerful reflection at you. And it was like, no, we're going
embodiment.
Yeah, this is exactly what she said.
Yep.
And I said, we're going to showcase really the power of surrender without needing another person to surrender to in order to have that release, but to truly be embodied in your own right, in your own body.
Yeah. I heard once such a beautiful story. I heard once that in a Tantra training that your surrender is not for someone else. It's actually an offering. Like, I will let you so close to me that I offer you my surrender because it's such a gift.
Wow.
Because I'm that open and soft.
Wow.
And you're right. It's like the expansion and contraction, that is life. That's life. And to feel our own surrender, our own crumble, and have a felt sense experience with that, now these imprints create such a majesty in the nervous system where your 8-year-old is no longer running the show, right? Protecting and asking for her needs to be met. You're giving her and your nervous system the chance for your body to experience emotions in real time through the senses, through sensation, and that surrender and joy and love, self-worth, confidence, right? All of that comes from the ability to be able to allow life to move through you and experience that over and over again. And it's like constantly checking in with ourselves. I know for me, in my experience, it's constantly checking in with my 8-year-old. Hey, what do you need? If I start getting frustrated, that's my indication. Something's off, or a need is not being met, or I'm at capacity, right? Too much input, not enough output. And so checking in with her way of dealing with things is very similar to you. It's, I tend to be a hermit, right? Because I'm too at capacity, or different things. So now what that looks like for me is dancing and expressing.
Oh my gosh.
Space.
I did not realize what a dancer you are. Can I just say, for real, for real, for real, for real, for real,
For real.
absolute magic, absolute magic.
Thank
like
you.
An actual professional dancer. And also, you know, so my exposure to dancers was always with like this line of perfectionism. Your dancing is not only so beautiful with precision, but it's so freeing and like liberating. And it really does incite like this fun vibrance. Like it's so pure in what I believe is really the truest expression of dance. Truly. It's really beautiful.
Thank you so much. I really received that. It's my medicine, and we all have our medicine. And it's also why I teach women, right? As a somatic embodiment practitioner, it's so important for us to get, it doesn't matter if you can dance or not. All of us can dance, right? Yeah. All of us. But getting in your hips as a woman and just exploring what your curves are doing, sending your breath to your hips, like what is living in the tissue right now. There's so many different ways that we can explore and play. And on another note, right, like after 2 of my siblings passed, one to suicide, I went deep into addiction with alcohol. It had been happening for quite some time, but it got really bad after my brother passed. And I stopped dancing for 6 years. I stopped expressing. I didn't do anything. And I felt like a shell. And when I started dancing again, and after my siblings passed, I made a decision that I was going to live every day, anytime I got the opportunity to dance, to be in connection with someone, to be present with someone, like that is so precious. And death, grief gave me that gift of our presence is literally the greatest gift we can give anyone. like our full attentive presence and like truly listening, not only with our ears and what we're going to say next, but our bodies. Like, am I really holding this space of listening with my body, of seeing you, of witnessing you, of feeling you? And so to tie it all back, not dancing and feeling so unworthy and confused in life, to jumping back into it and getting sober and living for my son and my sister and my brother and then my grandma. I was like, fuck this. Like, if we're going to be on earth, we better live.
That's right.
We better feel. We better feel.
Amen.
Because it changes the course of our life, our family's life, creates deeper connection with our parents because we realize they did the best that they could, right? And then our kids, they don't give a shit what we say. They watch how we take care of ourselves.
Amen. You know what's so mind-blowing about all of this is I remember when I was on your table and you were over my shoulders and you had your hand on each one of my shoulders and you said, imagine your mom and your dad at your shoulder. And then imagine their mom and dad at their shoulder and their mom and dad's at their shoulder. And then that's the first time I really conceptualized what we talk about with like generational trauma. Yeah. It's the first time that I was able to really conceptualize the difference between my money pain trauma from one side of the family to the abuse on the other side of the family. Because I kind of molded them into one thing, so I was treating them the same. But when I was able to separate generationally, ancestrally, how these pains came from different sources, I was able to like intellectually and spiritually to use different tools on each to let them release from my body. And really bring in different guides, right? Like talking to my grandma or to my great grandma or to my aunt or which, ancestor I was sort of calling in to visually connect with, to see and have that conversation on how to like work through it, right? Like, I don't know another way to put it, but it's, sometimes I feel like I don't even have the language fully to really explain what internally is happening as I'm growing through these experiences. Exactly.
Totally.
But I mean, obviously one common denominator in pretty much everything has been my great grandmother, who came to visit also during our session.
She was like, boom.
Yes. Hi. And I can feel that energy so intensely. Yeah. And now that gives me so much peace. It's like another source of power and energy to tap into that just allows me to feel really safe. Like, I remember cuddling up on her bed, and feeling that feeling of just being fully loved. And again, when you can intentionally go into that headspace to crumble, she was who I saw when I finally crumbled. And it reminded me of that 5-year-old me that was laying with my grandma in her bed, staring at her perfume on the counter, listening to how adored I was. And I let the 41-year-old me feel that peace.
Yeah. I just made a connection because you said when you crumbled, that's when you felt the love of your grandmother on her bed, feeling that full embodied love, that nurture, nature, care, being 5. And so the 5-year-old in you, her needs were met when you crumbled because she felt the fullness of the love, which was in the deep surrender.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
How powerful is that? Do you just sometimes walk about in the world like you're the most powerful woman in the world?
Me?
Yeah. Because you kind of are.
Little old me, I'm just a human figuring it out,
It's so beautiful. What you do is so beautiful.
It's changed my world.
It's changed mine too. And,
I had to. I have to speak on that for a sec. I had to become so obsessed. I was either going to die, I was not going to make it. I was having suicidal ideologies numerous times. I mean, I had abuse as a child, as a baby of 5, and I had, my dad stayed with her. And so that imprint as a child was I'm unworthy of love and unworthy of being protected. And I had to keep going back to their house. And so that created a lot of confusion. I have a great relationship with my dad now through this work. Wow. With both my parents. It's amazing, right? And I realized this was a part of my curriculum. I really believe that everybody has a theme, and mine is just happens to be heartbreak. I got a PhD in heartbreak, honey. But just cracking through, I realized my pain, our suffering really is the portal to our unique gifts, because if I hadn't experienced it, how do I hold someone else through their crumble, right? I couldn't. There's no way. I don't know what that embodied experience is like. And so I had to become so obsessive about it, and I did. And really what did it for me was, at the time I didn't have enough self-worth to choose myself. But when I was sitting in a medicine journey with ayahuasca and wachuma in Peru with the indigenous community, I had my hands in the dirt with Mother Nature, and Sammy, my son, came to me.
I have chills over my whole body.
And this is wild how the medicine worked. In that moment, I was flooded in uncontrollable tears, not because of sadness, but because of how much I loved him. I was crying true, authentic tears of love. And Bernard, he was the facilitator of this retreat. He came over. I was like sitting on a rock. I'm all, like feeling so much love, just sobbing. Yeah. And I really believe that was the first time I really felt so much unconditional love in my life. And he came and he just said to me, such an OG, he's like, put his hand on my shoulder. He has these green eyes. He like looked like a leprechaun at the time. I was like tripping totally. And he's like, you have such a big heart. And he goes, your heart has so much to tell you. Just stay. And I was like, and that's it. And then he was gone. I was like, where the fuck did he go? And that has stuck with me. And now that's
just stay.
Just stay. Just stay with the love. Stay with the emotion. Stay in it. And in that moment, what I realized, and the medicine spoke to me and said, how much you love your son, now turn that around, and that's how much you're going to learn to love yourself. You're going to take what you're feeling for him, you're going to put that in your heart. And I was like, it just blew my mind, right? Because I had so much trauma. I was so blocked from seeing anything. So the medicine was a beautiful tool for me. It's not for everyone. But for me, it opened those doors to feel true unconditional love. And I just made a commitment. I was like, this is what I've been looking for my whole life, is to feel this love. And it was through my son. And so I was like, I'm going to do whatever. How many people can I serve? How much can I serve myself? How much can I stand in my power? How much can I tell myself it is safe to be seen in your power? Because your power is your surrender, and how much your heart is open, actually.
Right. I didn't realize how closed my heart really was. And it wasn't until, actually my 23-year-old held me accountable to that, where, I was in the dating world. Relationships have such a beautiful way of mirroring back to you what you need to see in yourself. And when I was attracting these really emotionally unavailable men, and my oldest daughter was like, well, Mom, you might not be as emotionally available as you think. It's like, wow, I always thought I was pretty emotionally open, but it was really under my terms, and it was a lot of production involved. And really when I realized, wow, there's a lot of conditionality about my own love for myself, for anything and everyone around me. And it was really a moment where I had to explore, what does it mean to unconditionally love? What does it mean to be emotionally available? What does that look like? What is that practice? How can I create enough boundaries around myself that really allows me to be that open? And that's been such, and I think that that's a continued practice as well, just managing what those boundaries look like, and to not let boundaries become walls, and knowing the difference between the two. And again, to me, a big telltale has been in that exhale energy. Your body tells you instinctually. We just have to allow ourselves to empower that inner voice that says we can hold space here, or we need to retreat here. We're not safe in this relationship. Goes back to what you said earlier about the safe connection. What was that quote that you said?
Healing is a byproduct of safe connection.
And when that really, like a light bulb, and all the tools over the last couple of years just started to become clearer and clearer and more integratable, and that has been life-changing. Talking about like love yourself. It's like explore yourself.
Yeah.
Learn who you are.
Absolutely. What do you like? And also we have to play more.
Oh,
gosh.
yes.
Like I also became so obsessed with healing that I was just like, I became an addict of healing, right?
Have you ever heard the analogy that it's like how deep can you go? Like when does the inner childhood work like end, or at what point have you done enough healing? And it's like, how deep can you go? The lowest of the low, you hit ground zero, all those things. It's like, maybe when you decide to put the shovel down, keep digging for more healing. Just lighten up, let yourself go and explore and play. And oh, it's so true.
Because our inner child does not want to dig. Our inner child's like, go dance. Go connect, go have lunch, go in the water, go play, right? And what did we do when we were 7 and we were 8? I did an event last night, and in the beginning of the practice I had them shaking in their somatic body to release tension and come into the room. And I was like, imagine that the bell just rang and you're 8 years old and you're going out for recess. You know what I mean?
Amen.
What does that feel like in your body? And something else I wanted to touch on.
What does that feel like in your body?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because then you channel that anytime, all the time.
Totally.
Right? You don't have to have a whole day to go and play. You can have an hour and really maximize that hour with that sensation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maximize that hour with the sensation. You just said something so important, because that is what feelings are. It's a matrix of sensations. It's data. It's literal data that we get information from. I think our greatest work is, number one, to be on earth, living in our bodies, right? Having that felt sense experience, and constantly checking in with our nervous systems and playing, right? And also something you said earlier is our bodies. My mom healed herself from cancer. She had thyroid cancer when I was 3. And just hearing your story and what you went through, right? Our bodies know how to heal. When I was in addiction, my last time, I was so sick for 2 weeks. I thought I was going to have brain damage. It was so bad. My gut was entirely a wreck. And what I realized through working with Dr. Brett Jones specifically, and his wife, Dr. Kate Jones, they're amazing. I went to an event called Energy Somatics, and they were talking about the innate wisdom of the body. And our mind and our bodies, you spoke on this, are directly connected. They're not separate. And so if we can learn that it's a bottom-up model, nervous system, our electrical system is first. If somebody were to throw a rock through this window, our brain wouldn't go, oh, who just did that out there, right? Our body would have a reaction first. Mm-hmm. And so the wisdom in our body, everything is energy. And so when we can match the thought with what's happening in the body and start to self-regulate through our nervous system and apply these things and also be so patient and gentle with our process, we can change anything.
Wow. That's true embodiment.
Yeah.
That's the literal definition, right? Like that being at one with your thoughts and your emotions. Yeah. It's so beautiful.
Like divine alignment.
Yeah.
Right? Thoughts, actions, words, incongruency. Yeah. And working with all the bodies, the physical body, the spiritual body, the emotional body. Did I miss one? The mental body, right? All of them are doing something. And the soul, even in the work that we did, we worked a little bit with spinal energetics, right? Our electrical system goes out 9 feet. So you walk into a room, you instantly can feel, I like this person. I want to continue to connect with them. I want to see what's here. Or I don't get a good vibe from that person.
Yeah.
That's our nervous system immediately knowing what's happening. Mm-hmm. So when we're working with the body, I mean, that part of us is constantly actually trying to work for us. And so the more that we suppress, and I did this for so long, the more I suppress my anger, the more I suppress my sadness, all of those things, we're just like stocking and piling up. But when the crumble happens through safe connection, that's when the healing happens. And now we have more space. And this is where that term capacity comes in. Now you have, capacity to create. Now you have capacity to clean your house.
Yeah.
Like that's a real thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, it's my word for 2025 has been connection. And, you know, when I first manifested that word for 2025, my thought was connection with others, but it's really both. Yeah. It's really connection with myself and also a commitment to that connection with myself and a commitment to that connection with others.
Totally.
And to show up with others with that same unconditional love that I give myself and that, you know, that I want to receive. That love that's without attachments, that's without expectations, and that doesn't mean without commitment. You know, I would say that commitment, an imposed commitment becomes an obligation, right? Imposed expectations become obligations. Yeah. But when you can really, truly commit to another or to a purpose or to a feeling, a sensation, a time structure, that's true freedom is actually given through those commitments to your own boundaries, to your intuition. So it's all of these things that we're talking about, like really, really prioritizing this level of connection with yourself and with others, to me is the most liberating thing in the world. I'm so grateful for like our connection when we met, and you know, that in our time now, even working together one-on-one and at these beautiful retreats, it's like I'm getting to see a whole different, you know, aspect of who you are and really what you have to offer, because there's so many layers. We haven't even talked about your book. and by the way, like the most brilliant poet. Going to her book release was pure magic. This has been, it's just so good to have you here. And I am overproducing what I'm saying right now. So now I'm just going to say thank you so much for being here and for this conversation. There are so many levels and layers to this. And the tools that you show all of us to have is like, not show all of us to have, the tools you provide us with. The depths of how we can meet ourselves and make ourselves more available is just magnificent. Why don't you tell the audience sort of where to find you, how to learn from you, how to work with you, because you have so much to offer, you know, in the several retreats that we've done together and the one-on-one sessions that we've done together, it's always something new. And I'm always learning another layer and level of really, truly the magic that you create. So kind of let everybody know how to work with you and where to find you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, first and foremost, especially as women, we are multi-dimensional beings. So we're not meant to be in a box. And there's so much that we get to create and learn from and explore with. So all of these tools and practices, I just want to continue to share with you so that you can feel fucking magnetic in your own life. You can find me on the gram. I love the gram. Come say hi. Come dance with me. All the things. Message me at LinZee, LinZee _Belle, BELLE. And then my website is LinZeeBelle.com. I just finished, it'll be coming out soon, an audio course. And this is going to be under my brand, The Dragon House, and it's HAUS. It's all about shining a big bright light on your pain as a portal to your unlimited, unwavering potential, and just embodying your fire as a woman. So that's what this program is about. It's going to be fueled with somatic practices and everything that I have learned in my time over the years. How do I package that and create something that is super accessible? So these practices are anywhere from 4 minutes to 17 minutes, no longer. And it's something that you can do every day to connect to your body. So super excited about that. And then I also have a retreat business, Align and Allow Retreats. So look on the lookout for our next retreat coming soon. And I'll be with Mel in April.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait.
It's going to be
literally
good.
2 hours with LinZee is 2 years in therapy. It's wild. It's a wild experience. And every single time, I mean, I can go off on another tangent about the first one when you did the left eye gazing. Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We're mirrors, baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Join us. And thank you so much for tuning in and for just being on this journey as we really explore all the different ways that we can heal, grow, and evolve and transform in this beautiful life.